Hello, agents. I am Mariah. I'm the Director of Agent Relations for Agents Invest. Today we have Gary Wilson. He is a well known real estate entrepreneur. He has written several books. He's an agent, an investor, and the founder and coach for Path to Profit System. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you, Mariah. It's a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to do a little teaching and preaching.
I can't wait to learn everything you have to offer. Okay, well, let's kind of start at the beginning because I know that you actually started in banking. Is that correct?
Yeah, my degree was in computer science, and my that was actually my third job. The first job was actually at NASA, at Langley Air Force Base.
Wow,
Yeah,
amazing.
down in Hampton, Virginia, and then I went to work for a Navy contractor, and I tracked Soviet subs for a while, and I just didn't like being cooped up in a cage. And,
Yeah.
in the dark, I wanted to be out and be free, and banking it's a bank called Sovereign Bank of Virginia, now it's part of, Bank of America, and, it was, I had windows looking outside, I could walk outside and just like, "Okay, I'm into this thing here," and then but I started investing, and, because I really at the end of the day, Mariah, I just really wasn't born to be sitting behind a desk in a cube. I need to be out and about, moving,
So
just
many of
staying
us.
active.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that was how I got started. That's when I first learned a little bit about money was in banking.
And then so what made you pivot from banking into being a realtor?
Yep. Well, really, it started a few years before that. So I went to Old Dominion University in Tidewater, and my
Okay.
college freshman year roommates named Socrates, and he are still good friends today. I live in Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Florida, and he's in Florida, so we connect every now and then and go ride waves and stuff like that. Well, his dad is a Greek immigrant and came to Greece. He met his mom went to Greece for high school graduation. She was born in the U.S. but Greek family. They family sent her there to meet the rest of the family, and she stayed the summer and came back married to Sock's dad. And when we graduated, we were just going to go rent some place down at the beach and live the beach life. And his dad basically said, "Don't be idiots. You're gonna buy a house. You're not going to rent. You're going to buy a house that you're going to make money on." So
Mhm.
he showed us how to buy this 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom ranch in Virginia Beach from a guy in the Navy. And we assumed his VA mortgage, and you can still do that today.
Wow.
Um, Rented out the other 2 rooms. We were house hacking before house hacking was a term. The other
Mhm.
2 guys' rents paid our entire we had 3 mortgages on that place. It was creative financing. But that's really what got me started, Mariah. I'll never forget at the closing table, pounding his chest and saying, "If you boys do what I tell you to do, you won't have to work for anybody else when you're 35 years old." And, of course, I didn't listen. I got married 2 years later, and Sock bought me off, but I woke up 35 years old, working
Mhm.
in a bank called PNC Bank in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, excuse me. Moved up there because my wife's family was from there, and, remember thinking, "I am just not liking this." I mean, I felt like I was dying spiritually is what it felt like. So I thought, "What
Mhm.
if I did what Mr. Tibet told me?" And I started investing, and, in 5 years, I was able to retire from the corporate world, had a big portfolio of rentals, and, that's what really bought me my freedom. Just having those properties made everything else possible. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, part of the beauty in that is that we live and learn, right? So
yeah,
we make our mistakes or wish we had started sooner, but the wonderful thing about investing is that you can really start at any age. So
absolutely.
it's good that you woke up and realized, yeah, I should start investing. I
Yeah,
wish more people would do that.
yeah. I never forget, I was teaching a class. I used to, what happened is, a few years into investing, a local, we called them gurus, late night, the midnight gurus, doing the infomercial stuff at night. He was a
Right.
local guy doing it, and he invited me to be on his Saturday morning business radio program, and I was flattered. I was like, "Well, sure, I'll glad to do that." He called me the next week. He said, "Gary, I never sold more training programs than after Saturdays." He said, "Would you come to one of my classes and just?" He ended up being a regular guy. Just they take a bad rap sometimes, those guys, but he was a regular guy. And he said, "Would you just come and just step in around lunchtime and have lunch with someone?" I said, "Absolutely." And fell in love with that. Next thing you know, I'm teaching, 1 or 2 Saturdays a month,
Mhm.
and really fell in love with that aspect of it. That was really my calling. I just didn't know it till God put it in front of me and said, "Hey, here's this opportunity." Because I used to say no to stuff. I think, "No, I'm in my lane. This is what I'm doing, and I'm going to be a banker and blah blah blah." thank goodness I realized when opportunity comes, guys, man, you take it. It's there for a reason, you know. So that's what led to everything else. That was a pivotal point. The first one was Sock being my roommate. That was, if it wasn't for him, my family was very conservative. I mean, my mom was beside herself when I told her I was buying a house, and I just graduated less than a month earlier from college. You know,
Yeah.
but it really, I really kind of grew out of my own skin, so to speak. And I tell you, it does. You have to take action. And somebody made a comment here about taking risk. You know, I would agree. I mean, in a large way, but you have to start off with education, and you have to get information before you take action, and that will greatly reduce the risk and help you make better decisions. And that's really that's probably one of the key secrets is no guessing, no assuming. Get the education, get the information, take right action, and you'll get the right results. You know.
Right. And you know how wonderful it is that I know so many parents actually that would buy a house for their kid to house hack or buy them a condo when they go to college as you know an investment.
Mhm.
But how wonderful it is to like empower your child and teach them about real estate investing and actually have them do it, have them, you know, buy it and have the mortgage and everything in their name. That's a whole different scenario, and I love that teaching aspect of it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
very fulfilling. I mean, I tell you, there's nothing better. Nothing feels better than somebody thanking you months and years later for what you taught them, and that goes for everything. I taught my kids and a bunch of their friends how to surf, and I tell you what, if you ever taught a kid how to ride a bike, and you know when they take the training wheels off and they're cruising down the street with this big grin, and behind them is usually typically a parent, mom or dad, doing this, jumping up and down. You know that's the feeling you get. I got to tell you this, Mariah, because this is so crazy wild. I was in Tampa in August speaking at an event. One of my students was putting on an event at the Tampa Club, and so I spoke there. Coming out in the elevator bay was one of my old clients from like 15 years before from Pittsburgh, and said, "Hey, is Gary?" And I said, "Yeah, it is." And his name's Matt Smith, and I knew his face, but I couldn't place the name. And any case, he asked us, "Hey, what are you doing there?" And he said, "Well, I retired there." He said, "I did everything you taught me. I bought all these." He had about 50 properties in Pittsburgh, and he's younger than I am. I think he was 38 when he retired. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Gary, you don't understand. I don't do anything. All those rents pay for this." He's a member of the Tampa Club, lives right on the water down in St. Pete. I mean, just an amazing. But that I walked out of there, Mariah, with I swear on cloud nine, because sometimes we tend to beat ourselves up a lot when we're teaching. It's like, are they getting it? Am I making sense? And to have
Mhm.
somebody come back all these years later, just out of the blue like that, was just unbelievably fulfilling. You know?
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your path to profit system a little bit. Tell us about it.
Well, early on, what it started out was me teaching people how to buy rentals. That was my thing. I did a lot of flips.
Mhm.
And if everybody listening, I'm not trying to talk you into or out of anything. I just want to tell you from experience, not just my experience, but experience from several thousand people I've taught. The folks that buy rentals generally stay around a lot longer. They have a much longer, time frame in the business, building up wealth and income. The
Mhm.
flippers, for some reason, Mariah, they just kinda they don't stay around that long, and they will a couple years, but for whatever reason, they get out of it. Um, the people that buy the rentals, I mean, I have people that have bought 40, 41 properties with me over the years, and, uh, and most of them are retired. I mean, most of my students from those early years, they're all retired, you know? But in any case, what happened is my first training program was on how to buy multifamily rentals because the guy I learned from was just teaching single family homes. And I thought, well, that's a long, long, hard way to make money. It works. It definitely works. But when you buy multifamily, everything is scalable. If everything's based on a multiple. So, for example, the first time I went above 20 units, I bought a 78 unit building, ended up being 90 units altogether. But that 90 unit building, that was another pivotal moment because I just the income from that building alone, I could easily have lived off of. You know, I could have retired again. But so the first program was teaching people how to buy rentals. Then I created another one to teach them how to flip homes because I realized a lot of people were watching TV. They're watching, Flip Flop, Flip This House, Flipping Brothers.
On
They're
the
entertaining.
HGTV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very entertaining. Yeah, I can't remember the guy out in LA. Uh, Khalik, I can't remember, but in any case, great shows, but they don't show you everything. They're not teaching shows, they're entertainment shows. That's why I
Right.
created the program to show people, look, you've got to study the market, you've got to study the economy to know when to flip. Flipping is all about timing, which makes it more
Mm.
risky, by the way. Rentals, you can buy rentals all day long, every day, doesn't matter what the economy is doing. You're always going to make money. So, in any case, through all that, the biggest challenge was uh, realtors and contractors. Contractors just absolutely made me get old fast, and the realtors just didn't know how to serve me. They weren't trained to help investors. They were trained to help you and I buy our own home. We
Mhm.
had to go to commercial to get anybody interested in working with us investors, and yet they didn't want to deal with the fourplexes and flipping and things like that. They wanted strip malls and storage facilities. And by the way, they weren't trained to actually know how to invest themselves, although a lot
Mm.
of commercial guys do. So what I did is I got my license early on, and a few years later, I realized I need to start my own brokerage. Okay, this is kind of makes sense here in a second. While I was teaching all those years before, people found out I had my license. I didn't get it to be a regular real estate agent. I got it for myself. Well, they
Okay.
found out I had my license, so I'm going to these classes, asking, "Hey, Gary, can you be my realtor?" I said, "No, I don't want anything to do with that." Got to about 100 times. I think, well, maybe God's trying to tell me something. So I came into class where and I learned my very first lesson in marketing. I told 25 people that I could only take out two of them. Well, all 25 wanted to be the two. So I learned my first lesson, which is scarcity and urgency. You can't, most realtors are like, they'll take the call at 11 o'clock at night. They'll go out on Sunday afternoon showing houses and miss all the fun stuff back at home. I didn't want
Right.
that. I didn't want my agents doing it either. I said, no, our business, we're going to build a brokerage that focuses on investors. And that's exactly what we did. Not commercial, although we did some commercial work, but most investors starting out, they're just getting into the game and they are the ones that needed the help the most. So that's how we started our brokerage. And it was the fastest growing brokerage in Western Pennsylvania 3 years running. In fact, it doubled, it grew sixfold in those 3 years, it doubled 3 years in a row.
Wow.
Amazing. And
That
that's
is
when I created the third program, which is called the Investor Agent Training Program. We're teaching agents the terminology, the methods, so teaching them how to invest actually, but they learn, they implement right out in the field working with other investors.
right.
And that was the thing that was another one of my pivotal moments. That was my Andy Warhol has the thing he called 15 minutes of fame.
Right.
That was it because nobody else was doing it.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, and that's great that, all of these steps led to this, and you can follow along and see that, and it's great. I mean, it's all what learning is,
Mhm.
shifting our business to fit market and to fit, our interests and all of our lifestyle, as you said. I mean, really,
Yeah,
who wants to work on Sundays when they can be with their families? And it is
absolutely.
it's such a wonderful ability to have this and skill sets to be able to implement in being an investor agent. So, well, let's talk to these
Okay.
agents that we have that only work with retail buyers and that are kind of on the fence on, well, should I start trying to get investor clients? It seems like a lot of work. Why
Mhm.
why should they work
Yeah.
with investors?
Well, a couple things. I'm so happy you asked that question because when I really got into brokerage in a big way, I realized how many people were kind of glaring at me like, well, I don't want to do that. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? And they would say things like, those investors are crazy. They make all these crazy offers, and I got to go look at all these crappy properties, and they don't have any money, and blah, blah, blah. And
Uh-huh.
I realized they were doing it the wrong. They were coming from the mind frame of an owner occupant type agent, traditional agent, helping you and I buy our own home. They
Mhm.
didn't understand the terminology and the methodology. So that's when I realized eventually I did had the vision of a program. I didn't create it for years later, but so for everybody out there listening, if you're more a traditional agent, here's a couple things to remember and write this down. This is a great little lesson. The transactions you're working on and the people you're working with are a direct result of the marketing you're doing or the lack thereof. So if you're not doing marketing correctly, you're going to get whatever the world gives you. And if you're probably going to get the no down, low down, no money down people. I don't do that. I don't work with those people. I work with
Right.
people who have money. Okay. That's how you make money in real estate. So what I learned was I can target who I'm working with. So this is really important, guys. Please either remember this or write this down. You can select the people that you're marketing to. So I selected, and I'll give them to you, 7 groups of people: dentists, chiropractors, engineers. There's 452 types of engineers, by the way. There's a lot of engineers. So dentists, chiropractors, engineers, teachers, believe it or not, make great flippers. Airline pilots make great investors. Okay. First responders, that's your firemen and policemen predominantly. And finally, military, active duty, reserve, retired, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard. We count those guys too, merchant Marines. Um, all those groups make great investors. They're typically disciplined, they're educated, they're often professional, and a lot of times they're business owners. And the business owners understand profit and loss, income expense, and how to read financial statements and make good, valid decisions. And
Mhm.
most important of all, they have money. Okay. They had good income, they had some savings, and those are the investors that may be a lot of money. And they'll make you a lot of money too. So that's the first thing is it's who you're working with makes all the difference. Okay. Now, here's some reasons why this is so important. If you think about it, if you've got an informed investor who's making good decisions, they're probably going to do more investing. They're not going to buy one and be done. Okay. A lot of flippers do that. They say, I'm going to flip a house. How hard can this be? You got to paint and carpet and blah, blah, blah. No, there's a lot to it. So there's a whole industry behind it. So they screw up and they don't do it again. But the
Mhm.
really good flippers don't just flip one, they flip 2 or 3 a year, maybe more over a period of time. So check this out. I have a wheel I designed to show this graphically. And if you only work with owner occupants, you know the drill. You've got to work for every single transaction. You got to earn every client to get that one transaction, and maybe you'll get another one 10 years later or through referral. Okay, that's a job. That's what that is.
Yeah.
When you work with a flipper, you help them first buy the house. You get a commission there. You put it in writing that you get first right of refusal on the listing. So you're going to get the listing when they go to resell it. That's 2 commissions, and you know it's going to sell because it's a flip. It's their business. It's an investment. They have to sell. So you're almost guaranteed. I can't say you're going to definitely get guaranteed, but I can. How can I say this? You're probably going to get 2 commissions,
Right.
and then yeah, and the thing is, the person moving in there, like the buyer, a third of the time you go that one, and if you're really good at your marketing, it'll be more than a third of the time. And by the way, that person may have to sell their old home before they buy this one. 4 possible commissions. That's only on one property. That flipper is going to do that 3 or 4 times a year. Okay. Take a landlord. Landlords, remember, stay around a lot longer. They'll start off with a single family and a duplex, and eventually they'll start buying 3 plexes and 4 plexes. Later on, they'll buy some 9 plexes and 20 plexes. They keep going and they keep growing, which means your commissions keep growing. And I know people right now are saying, well, want those commercial, my broker won't let me do it. Well, you might want to switch brokers because there's no such thing as a commercial license. There is a commercial designation called
Mhm.
CCIM, and it's college level stuff. It can be difficult to get. Well, you don't have to have that. There's no law that says you have to have a commercial license to sell commercial real estate. On my team, I've got a team of agents all over the country. We're in half the states, and on our team, we've got a group of commercial agents, and that's all I lead that group personally. We call it a mastermind group. I lead that group personally, and we're doing transactions anywhere from a million up to 800 million, and not just the United States. That's around the world, and that's all possible because we started with investors that were just starting out, and we grew their path of success with them. You always stick with
Mhm.
these investors. These are lifelong relationships. Okay. So, in any case, so hopefully that now people have got their ears open and their radars up because
Yeah.
that's the gospel truth too. That's exactly how you do it. So I'm sorry if I went a little bit long there, Mariah. I just
No, I love it. I love
yeah.
it. And that's one of the key things about working with investors, right? Is that they are repeat clients. You want them to be repeat clients. Many investors want to buy a lot of investments in one particular market. It helps with the costs, and property management, especially if they're using a property manager. Usually they can cut some costs there if they have multiple properties in one market in one area. And like you said, yeah, just stay there and grow with the investor. That's wonderful advice. I love that.
Yeah.
Are you currently actively investing right now?
I'm not right now. The reason is the business I just started 2 years ago, and I learned in the past I've built and sold. This is my seventh business. I built and sold six businesses and
Mhm.
had quite a large portfolio, several hundred properties, thousands of tenants and all that. And what I did was, and I'm not saying everybody should follow what I did, but as the market continued to climb out of recession and move into full blown bull market, and I'm not suggesting people try to time this because there's other factors involved. But I sold when the market was high, and I'm on a cash basis. I have absolutely no debt, and
Mhm.
so I know the market's changing. And I'm not an economist, and I'm not an attorney or a banker anymore. But guys, I've been doing this a long time, 36 years since I was 23 years old. Okay, and I've seen the movie before. So when the numbers come out, what I really encourage you to do, if you're really listening or take notes, is don't turn on the TV. In fact, get rid of the TV. This is crazy, but I haven't owned a television since 2015. Okay, so I get my news
That's
from
great
CNN.
advice, you guys,
Oh
seriously.
yeah, I mean I
It
read, I
is.
study, I go out at night, look at the stars. I mean I love life. And I tell you what, when you can cut out all of the spinning that's going on, all the
All the
rhetoric and all
noise,
the
right.
yeah, it's all
Mhm.
garbage. Focus on the facts and read and study history. And I'm telling you, and I'm not trying to scare you. I don't want you to panic. I want you to prepare. We are in a recession. And what's really weird is we're following the government's own rules by definition of recession. And yet they're still saying, well, we don't really know if we're in recession. We're in a recession. It is what it is. Fed just raised interest rates three times in a row, 0.75 of a basis point every. That's a lot, especially when you have the massive price increases before that. People can't hang in there, and you'll have real estate experts say, "Well, we're going to be okay because we've got lots of demand." There's no better way to dampen demand than to raise the price of everything and then raise the price of borrowing money on top of that. Demand is dropping, and it's going to keep dropping. And by the way, what we call the default rate on global debt, if you look at different countries, you can look all this stuff up. And I suggest you do it. The level of default is statistically percentage wise, no matter how you slice it, the highest it's ever been.
Mhm.
We're ending the longest bull market in the history of recorded economies. Okay, um, and again, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just telling you, the numbers tell the story. And my advice to you is, I would prepare now. And if you're not working with investors, you really need to start now because when the economy goes down, the owner occupant business dries up. It's the investor business that not only picks up, not just helps you survive, it helps you thrive.
Mhm.
It's going to be Christmas time. That's why people like me are on a cash basis, okay? Because we've been through it 5 times before, and we've seen the movie. It's economics, guys, is like a natural law. If you look at the sun, you know it's going to rise in the east and set in the west. Okay, um, it's the same thing with economics. Supply and demand is a seesaw. Okay, so for a long time we've had demand way up here and supply way down there. Okay, but as you lower demand, all right, what happens is it cools off the market. So and I'm not saying you're going to have price reductions right away. Although back in Virginia, Mariah, in July we saw a 10% haircut right off the top. Month of July, 10% reduction in prices, and that was
Mhm.
true most parts of the country. But what
Yeah,
will
that's a
happen
good point,
is
yeah.
yeah, it's an inertia effect. So, guys, I can't tell you the bottom of the shoe's going to drop off next week, next month. My opinion is, and I'm probably going to take a lot of flack for this. I think by the end of this year, the other shoe's going to start coming off, and next year it's going to play out. And it could be 8 months, could be 18 months. Nobody knows. It could be 3 years. But I do know this: um, the amount of paper, amount of money that's being printed, and not just the last couple of years in the pandemic. And you can say it's the Democrats and Republicans; they both did it. Okay, it's the government. um, Consumers are going to get to the point like they just can't afford it anymore. I mean, look at the cost of gas and meat and milk and bread and everything. And you can't keep raising salaries because the companies can't afford it. I mean, I've owned six companies. I'm on my seventh one now, and I'm telling you, I'm using virtual assistants now in the Philippines. It's because here's what's happening.
That's smart.
Yeah,
That's smart.
good.
I know a lot of people that do that, yeah.
Well, guess who's laying people off already? It started back in July. Financial institutions. It's public information. They're
Yeah.
laying people off. They started in July, and the reason they started before everybody else is because they're the 800-pound gorilla. They're the
Mhm.
top of the food chain, right? The bankers, if you really understand how banking works and how lending works, they're lending the same money out up to 10 times. It's called fractional lending. Okay. That's why you and I can buy into Fannie Mae backed securities on Wall Street. Okay. That money keeps getting recycled. Well,
Mhm.
in the last recession, big lending companies like Countrywide almost took down Bank of America in a merger. And thankfully, the Obama administration required healthy banks to take over unhealthy banks, or we would have been in a full blown depression. I mean, that was one of the biggest saves in American economic history, and hardly anybody ever gives the guy credit for it. They talk about everything else, but the funny thing is I'm not a big government person, believe me. I always hated seeing the government bailing out Ford and GM and things like that. But as I matured and grew up, I realized if we didn't do that, there would be far more damage. Okay. So, any case, long story short, the investment business is going to pick up. It's a mathematical certainty. And it would
Right.
be really good if you could be part of that, not just serving other people, helping them make money, but you yourself participate too. I want you listening here to own your own properties. I'm telling you, over time, you'll be so glad because you're going to have them paid off. You get all the cash flow coming in. It gives you so much more flexibility. You can borrow against it. You can do what you can be a lender. There's all kinds of things you can do.
Yeah,
And
and
it
private lending is creative financing and private lending
Mhm.
are huge right now just because of the interest rates. So us investors, we have access to that way more than your normal home buyer, and so the normal home buyers are kind of stuck with those big interest rates, and then they're not able to buy. So that is one of the biggest differences as far as clientele when you're talking, working with retail buyers versus working with investor clients. So yes, it definitely has much to do with where we're at. I know my
Yeah.
my sister's she works for a mortgage company, and they've done a lot of layoffs
Yeah.
just in the past couple of weeks and stuff. So yes, everything is kind of a trickle down effect, but
Yeah.
yes, it's a really perfect time to pivot into working with investors if you don't already. I
Absolutely.
absolutely agree with you. Yeah.
What's why I like Jennifer. I mean, when we met back in the early summer, and I had her on my podcast, and then I had her teach class for me back in August, and she'd gone away for like 9 weeks or something, and
Yeah.
but just her personality, her level of knowledge and skill, and the fact that she I swear, obviously we're not related. Well, maybe we are. Who knows? But we're I'm a brother from another mother, and she's a sister from another mister because we are absolutely in lockstep, in sync with this whole philosophy. She's benefited from it tremendously. She's sharing with others. She's showing others, and I'm doing the same thing. And I do get excited about it because I know what it's done for me and many other people. And I can't tell you how many. I mean, I have a website, of course, like everybody, and I have a testimonials page, and I look at it every now and then when I'm feeling like I'm beating myself up. Am I doing enough? Am I doing a good enough job? I'll go look out there, and I realize there's hundreds of them out there. That's hundreds of people whose lives you can touch. So for
Right.
you, the agent, just remember this: you can make a lot of money helping other people make a lot of money. If you don't know
Mhm.
where to start, you've got your license. It's a license to print money. Serve others, help others make money in real estate, and you yourself will be able to do the same thing. And be like Jennifer. I mean, she's one of the most awesome people I've ever met.
Yes, and I love that. So Jennifer Beatles, yeah, she's the founder of Agents Invest, and which is our company, and she, the both of you, I respect so much just
Mhm,
because you're taking all of your knowledge, your years and decades of knowledge of working in the industry and everything that you've learned, and you're teaching everybody how to do it, saving them time, saving them money, right,
mhm,
and helping them reach financial freedom and wealth, and that's really what it's about, is giving back and helping everyone create the life that they want,
mhm. Yeah.
not
It's like it
sitting
seems.
not sitting behind the desk in the cubicle like you mentioned,
Oh,
is
yeah.
yeah.
It's just ridiculous. I love a guy named Zig Ziglar. He passed away a few years ago. He was one of my favorite mentors. He had a famous saying. Just help enough other people get what they want, and you'll be able to get what you want. And that's exactly what we're doing. You do have to
That's
have a servant's heart to do this business, guys. You got to really love people, okay? And if you do, I mean, do this. Serve investors because you're. By the way, they statistically, you will earn on average 4 commissions per investor versus only one for owner occupant. I don't know
Mhm.
about you, but I like those odds. If I'm going to market and work to attract the business, I'd rather get paid 4 times versus one any day of the week.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Gary. So where can our agents find you if they wanna
Sure.
find you and search
Well,
about your
one
company?
one of the things I started doing is I run mastermind groups. Of course, I have training programs and I coach and all that. But the thing
Uh-huh.
I want to share with everybody, because it doesn't cost you a dime, and it's absolutely 100% educational, is I teach a class every Monday night called Monday Night Live, and I think that's part of the uh, I see it here, investor friendly agents freebie. So there's a link in there, guys. You can register, come on in, meet people from all different companies. And I do run a team. I run a large team. It's a national team of investor agents. But there's other people on the call from, Coldwell Banker, Remax, Berkshire Hathaway, you name it. They're all in there. So we don't promote we don't sell anything, we don't recruit anybody. It's flat out 100% education. And
Mhm.
there's one more thing I ask you guys to do. I love doing this, and hopefully it shows. um, the eighth book I wrote just came out. I was hoping to have a link for you guys today, but Amazon, unfortunately, has a software issue right now. We couldn't pull it off. But what I want to ask you is, I don't make any money on that book. I wrote it to fund something called the Healing House Foundation, and it's a way for us to help people in need have housing. Okay, I've made a lot of money in this business in real estate. I mean, I mean, you know, I can I just know this. It has served me extremely well and many other people. It's a way for you to give back. So all I ask you is this: if you want to, and I'll give you some valuable insight in the book too. Go to Amazon. It's called Global Investor Agent, which is the same name as our website, globalinvestoragent.com. That's where you can register for class 2 there, and just click on learn more and get more information. But from my heart to your heart, chances are somebody in your family or circle of friends that has a need right now. Healing House Foundation is not just single threaded. You get to have some voting power and how that money is sent to other people. We don't earn any money on that. And nobody on my team, we don't pay ourselves salaries. 100% goes back to the Healing House Foundation. The book is called Global Investor Agent. You get Kindle, paperback, and you'll learn a lot from it. And also, I also shared it. So half the book is written by 8 of my agents, and I didn't pick the 8 top agents, by the way. What I did is I put it out there and said, first come, first serve. Whoever wants to write a chapter in my new book, you get it. And so there's brand new agents there, like some of you, veteran agents. You get this, you get the whole gamut. I'm sorry I'm going along with this, but the Healing House Foundation guys would really benefit from it, and would mean a lot to me if you can, contribute the purchase of the book and learn from the book, and in exchange for that, Healing House Foundation, you're enabling somebody to benefit from the funds in the Healing House Foundation. So there's that. That's my preaching moment. Yeah,
Absolutely beautiful. I love that. I love that charity. So amazing. Thank you for sharing. And
you're very
thank you
welcome.
guys for watching with us. Definitely go and follow Gary, reach out to him and be in touch. And we will provide links for all of those things below in the comments. Thank you again. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye, everyone.